stopping by yet again another Massachusetts Beer Reviews. I am Thomas Metal75, and this is your Massachusetts Beer Reviews. And if this beer needed to be discussed, nor did it need to be discussed in a revisiting type of an episode, I'm going to look at the Bud Light. Again, I'm going to revisit that beer. Everybody that drinks beer has probably had a Bud Light, a Budweiser, some Anheuser-Busch product, or some form of a light beer or a low-alcohol beer wherever you are in the world. Anheuser-Busch are the people that make the Bud Light. The Bud Light is 4.2% alcohol by volume. I believe it's 110 calories. 110. 6.6 grams of carbs. 0.9 grams of proteins and no fat. The Bud Light was introduced in 1982. They were a little late on the light beer craze because a few years before that, Miller Lite had come out. And even before light beers were really a thing, I guess at one point in time, companies tried to do it with very little success. But their marketing wasn't even to call them a light beer, it was to call them diet beers, which didn't work very well. Now, because I've had a couple of beers already, I'm just going to use my tulip glass, style glass from Shipyard. Probably my favorite styled glass. And I want to do the Erica Lyons fan and Jay Terrio, but primarily the Erica Lyons fan pour of going straight down the middle. Anheuser-Busch does say to do that, but Erica Lyons fan from YouTube, check his channel out, says that you got to do that to release that CO2 and release that carbonation. I know, not the sexiest beer to have in this glass, but is what it is, and the glass just does a nice job of head. And it makes it look pretty darn attractive, regardless. Mike, I do have a preconceived, obviously I have a preconceived notion. I've reviewed the beer already. And I just wanted another beer and just, talk about some stuff here. Not a whole bunch of bubbles, just a few here and there trace streaming. Again, as you would expect from it being an American-style light lager, yeah, it definitely has a nice frothy white head. And lots of popping and fizzing. This glass could be a saving grace and creating some head if you like that in your beer. But typically the head on Bud Light and American-style lagers and adjunct lagers and light beers die. The nose. Oh, because it's in the nose, I wanted to mention this. The Bud Light does use some selected they say on the Anheuser-Busch website that they use selected imported hops as well as American-grown hops. And Anheuser-Busch does have 12 different brewery locations within the United States. And I know the one near me in Merrimack, New Hampshire, up north from where I live, does do some hop growing, a little bit of hop growing, so they do use some hops. They don't really specify which kind. Selected barley malts and the Bud family of beers from Anheuser-Busch use the primary adjunct of rice, as well as some beechwood aging, which doesn't impart any flavor, but I forget what it's supposed to do. So yeah, I am getting the grainy, ricey, kind of a lighter, like Sapporo or Kirin Ichiban, lighter notes there, but in a similar vein. Pretty sweet notes, pretty papery, thin, watery notes. Grainy, husky, kind of just smells like a typical keg draft beer. So let's try this again on camera. Cheers! Now, this beer, in December of 2016, time of review, was purchased by the family because Bud Light is currently undergoing a campaign where if you buy, I think it's at least an 18-pack of Bud Light, and you get a gold can in that Bud Light, you can enter in for a chance. You don't win, but you can enter in for a chance to win Super Bowl tickets for life, and I believe it's a pack of 2 for life, a pair of them. But Bud Light needs no introduction. It's thin and watery, ultra dry, crisp, clean, and refreshing. One of the driest beers you can ever purchase in the United States or the world. Definitely some sweetness holding everything together. Very crisp, again, I say that. Wet, papery, grainy, husky. Definitely the adjunct of rice, to me, is a lot nicer than corn. Although, not quite as, like I said in my, I did a blind taste challenge, if you don't remember, look back on the channel, of Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light. And as Miller Lite was the best, but it's nice to see the adjunct of rice here, because it doesn't just taste so cooked vegetal in its flavor, although you're still getting a little bit of it. It's not just like screaming in your face. It's pretty much doing what you need it to do. It does what it's supposed to do. I don't remember what it says on Rate Beer. They gave it a poor score as far as I remember. Or Beer Advocate, but Rate Beer is probably giving it less than a 5 or even an NA for no score. But I gotta tell you, as I do on this beer review channel of YouTube here, that I think if you're giving these kind of beers, the light adjunct American style lagers, and adjunct just, pale style lagers, if you're giving them bad ratings just because it's a beer that's brewed to be in that style, I think you're entirely missing the mark on that beer. There's absolutely nothing about Bud Light that is mind-blowing. I will give you that, beer snobs. But, and that taste was very seltzer or club soda-like. But there's nothing that's off-putting about the flavor of Bud Light that would ever deter me from drinking it. There's not a whole lot going on, and I think in the style of light lager, in the style of adjunct lager, and even cream ales, if we consider Genesee cream ale in this category of cheap beers that I'm trying to specify here, you can do a lot better for the price than Bud Light. The Anheuser-Busch products, I guess Busch in the natural line is an exclusion here, but in general, even with the Michelob stuff and the Budweiser stuff, I think, and I guess Shock Top if you must, you're spending a little too much for what you're getting on those products. I know not everybody, we're at 9 minutes here, I know that not everybody is into heavy beer flavors or are into a lot of the things that come out of craft beer these days, but there are good examples of light lagers. There are good examples of adjunct lagers. Bud Light and Budweiser are iconic and classic examples of their styles. But I would say if you want a good old standby type beer that you could stock your refrigerator with, Schlitz Lager is a great way to go. PBR is a great way to go. Miller High Life's not a bad way to go. Yuengling and the Yuengling Light are going to give you more, they're amber styles, are going to give you more flavors without, overbearing your taste buds. So, I mean, if you're just looking to get drunk, I guess, or you're just looking to have a party and you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money, I honestly don't think, I mean, don't get me wrong, Natural Light and Bud Light are not the same price, sure, but just the only real difference is I think Natural Light's a little bit more watery, but in general terms of base flavor, I don't think a lot of the light beers are from the major brands of Miller, Coors, and Anheuser-Busch are really all that disgusting or horrible of beers. So I think it really depends on how much money that you are able to spend on beer, number one, and number two, how much are you looking to purchase in your beer in quantity. Again, this is finishing very light and seltzer water-like, club soda-like. So I know there are people that are going to bash the hell out of this for that. But rating-wise, going into this brand spanking new, I think C is how I normally rate these kind of beers. And I'm pretty much going to stick to my guns on that. Miller Lite has more malty presence to the brew, which is by far more of a traditional beer type flavor, and is a pseudo Pilsner at that. This just dies a little bit too quickly and leaves you with nothing going on. But, again, when you want a beer and you're just thirsty, this does the trick. C+, end of discussion. Till next time, Bud Light on the channel today. Okay, keep tasting those great beers. Cheers. We will see you soon.